Tem, roll call.
Councilmember Guillermo Silva.
Might be one of those lines.
Councilmember Veronica Sanchez. Councilmember Armando Carmona.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Chris Barajas.
Here.
And Mayor Brian Bergson.
Here.
Question, can you all raise your hand when you sit here so we know who's talking?
And usually it'll be the person on the front, but that's a good point. Thank you. And next we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and if our lieutenant could lead us in the pledge.
Repeat after me.
So that takes care of item 2. We will move on to item 3 in just a moment. I just have a couple quick comments to make. First and foremost, thank you to Southern California Edison and to our residents who have come out here, not only having council meeting, but at a special time, at a special location. And the entire council appreciates your presence here. I want to also just let you know this is one prong, the first prong in a multi-pronged approach that will enable the city to help provide better services to our residents during future PSPS events. We will have additional discussions outside of this meeting with the other organizations and agencies within the city of Jurupa Valley so we can provide better resourcing and have a kind of a list of items what we need to do for these scenarios. I don't think of this any different, as you probably don't either, whether it's a fire evacuation or an earthquake or a PSPS event, it still does not allow you to have necessarily the full use of your home. In this case, without electricity, you can't turn on your heaters and things of that nature, and your food goes bad. We all know what happens when the power goes out. So we as a city need to have a checklist of items that we can rely on to provide service, the best possible service to our residents. I'd like to, I know everybody that when we get to public comments, we welcome your comments. I just ask that it be respectful. SCE is here, and I said I appreciate the fact that they are here. They serve us. They are our electricity provider, and we rely on them to provide us with the exceptional service we've come to expect. And PSPS is a hiccup in the road, but they are going to be here to go over certain procedures and policies and things that they need to do and why. Hopefully this will give you the information you need. They're going to also be providing and letting you know about special programs that are offered for residents with special needs. Many people that have medical equipment or other disabilities may need special services, which Edison will go over what items they offer. And also, they're going to talk about what Edison plans to do this year and next year on some of the circuits that were most highly affected by hardening the system. They'll go over some of those details. And I want to throw a shout out to Eileen Forrest from SCE. She is Jurupa Valley's government liaison, and she seems to work tirelessly here in our city and other cities that she represents when we have issues that we need Edison's help with. I think she jumped through hoops to get this meeting arranged in just a matter of a couple of weeks, and we appreciate it. Her team is here. I want to make sure that we respect them, and they are going to, during the public comment portion, if you ask questions, they will be able to provide answers on the spot if they have them. And if they don't have them, then they will get your contact information and be following up with you and the city. So everything that is asked, we'll have an answer to it as soon as possible. And with that, and no further ado, I will present to, or have Eileen Flores take the, oh, and before you start, yes, also there's Spanish interpretation, so if you either need, then you can go out to the table out front and where she can help you over here. But we have translation services available tonight at this meeting. And now Eileen Flores from Southern California Edison.
Sure. Sí, buenas noches. Si necesita traducción al español, por favor, véame y le puedo dar el equipo para que pueda escuchar los procedimientos en su idioma. Gracias.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Eileen Flores, Government Relations Manager for Southern California Edison. I want to thank the City Council and the community for giving us this opportunity to come speak to you tonight about recent public safety power shutoffs, also known as PSPS, which were necessary due to extremely dangerous fire conditions across the region. We recognize the hardships customers face when we must shut off power, which is why the decision to shut off power is never taken lightly and only as a last resort to protect the public, our employees, and the community. This evening, the SCE team will provide a PSPS overview. We'll then share some of the grid hardening work that we're doing in Jurupa Valley, followed by our customer care programs and how to prepare for future outages. And then we'll hand it over back to the mayor and the city council. As a reminder, we have a table in the lobby where you can update your contact information to make sure we have the correct phone number and email address for you so that you can receive important notifications. We also have our 211 United Way partners in the lobby with us who can help connect you to the resources that you may need. So with that, I will hand it over to Cameron McPherson, who is a principal manager with SCE Operations.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cameron McPherson, Principal Manager with Emergency Operations and Transmission Distribution. And thank you for the invite tonight. Glad to be here to talk to you about PSPS. So a foundation on our territory and the fire risk across our service area. We have 50,000 square miles of service area that we serve, approximately 27% of which is high fire risk area. Tier 2 and Tier 3 high fire risk pursuant to the California Public Utilities Commission High Fire Threat District. We've got about 51,000 miles of overhead lines, both transmission and distribution across that area, 14,000 of which are in high fire risk area. And we've got about 1.4 million poles and towers holding up those overhead wires, about 300,000 of which are in high fire risk area. Just gives you a little overview of the wildfire area in Southern California Edison. So just a primer on PSPS. I want to make sure everybody is rooted in what it is and what it is not. It is a tool of last resort. This is a tool to reduce utility consternation during extreme wind and dry field conditions when an ignition would be difficult, if not impossible, to suppress. PSPS takes into account two important factors in order to call a PSPS and execute a PSPS, and we'll go into those in detail. But one of them is the fire potential. The fuels have to be receptive for a fire to occur, and wind, and high and damaging winds. I'll go into detail in a minute here. This is a slide from CAL FIRE, or data from CAL FIRE, that just shows how bad the wildfire problem has gotten in California and why we as Southern California need to act. There are a portfolio of wildfire mitigation strategies and PSPS as a last resort. As you can see, you see a very precipitous rise in acres burned in California over the past 40 years. Key to informing public safety power shutoff at Edison is really twofold. That's weather and our fire modeling and fire science team. Our weather services team luckily has one of the largest private networks of weather stations in America, over 1,700 stations across around 1,100 circuits in high fire risk area that help inform us, give us granular data on the weather that's impacting your circuit. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, or even more weather stations per circuit. And that feeds into their artificial intelligence machine learning models that help them compute a lot of historical data and then fold in the data that's occurring real time to help them improve their forecasting. On the right side, you'll see we have a small team of fire scientists, and their goal is to understand the fuel receptivity of the fuels in our area. They do bi-weekly sampling in a few dozen locations across the territory to understand not to actually what the fuel conditions are in the area, in addition to external data provided by other public sources. And then this information is collected into their fire modeling, and they model fire. They can, should an ignition occur, how big would the fire be, how bad would it be, where would it burn? And then this helps us gauge the risk associated with this fire. A little bit on decision making for PSPS. Like I said, there's 2 kind of main factors that go in the decision to de-energize. One is the fire potential index, and that's an understanding of how dry the fuels are, how receptive they are to an ignition, in addition to things like humidity and wind speed as well. The other factor that has to be there is wind speed. Wind speeds, we basically have 2 categories of wind speeds, or baseline strategies for wind speeds where we de-energize. The first one is based on the National Weather Service Wind Advisory, and that's 31 miles an hour sustained and 46 mile an hour gust, and that's for bare wire. We have installed, I believe, over 6,000 miles of covered conductor, I believe. Of that 14,000 miles that I talked about earlier, we've installed over 6,000 miles of covered conductor, which is essentially a coated wire, which helps prevent an ignition from occurring should something fall into the line. We have about, like I said, 6,000 miles of that, and that allows us, because of the lower risk profile, that allows us to raise the threshold to 40 miles an hour sustained, 58 gust. We may have to de-energize, we may have to discount those thresholds depending on a few factors, one of them being extreme fire risks, one of them being kind of circuit health. And if we have a large event where we have a lot of circuits that might meet criteria all at once, we may have to de-energize earlier. When and where possible, we have thousands and thousands of pond switching devices across our territory. And to the extent possible, starting around 3 days out at least, we will try to isolate the areas where our weather models are indicating where the forecast will be meeting criteria. We will try to isolate areas that might not meet criteria and try to pull those out of scope. We use our switching devices in the field where possible to try to minimize the footprint of the PSPS event. Key to situational awareness during an event, obviously these 1,700 plus weather stations are critical in understanding not only the forecast, but they're a key decision in the decision to shut off power. So we know what the winds are in and around circuits serving your area. The other part, there are live field observers. We do put patrolmen and senior patrolmen out on the line to observe conditions on the field. They have handheld weather meters to back up in case there's, to corroborate weather stations that are sending information back to the control center. And then they can also report back of conditions that our weather stations might not be able to see. This is the ideal notification timeline. I say ideal because this is what we strive for. Forecasts are very good, but they're not perfect. And so about 4 to 7 days out, we begin to see some confidence of a weather system coming in. About 3 days ahead is typically when we activate our incident management team, which manages these events. And we will begin to send notifications to our public safety partners, such as the city, and also critical infrastructure providers in the area. 2 days out, we'll continue to send those notifications, and also to other businesses and residents. A day ahead, we will also send an update notification. If we can pull people out of scope at that time, we will send you a cancellation, but we will give you an update notification if you're still in scope. Because we have those weather stations, it enables us to wait until the criteria, until you hit those wind speeds or approach them to turn off power. And so there is a requirement to send a 1 to 4 hour notification from the CPUC. We try to get that as often as we can, but sometimes conditions creep up and winds creep up very rapidly. We're unable to meet that, but we shoot for a notification 1 to 4 hours before we get power. Once the power's off, we send confirmation that the power's off, and then when the incident commander, when the conditions subside, and the incident commander releases your circuit to be patrolled and restored, we will send a notification that we'll prepare to restore. And then upon completion of that restoration and power on, we will send another notification. A little bit about restoration. We've got over 1,000 high fire risk area circuits, and some range from very small circuits to some very long. And the average takes about 8 hours to control. Before we turn power on, we need to control that entire line because the power has been off during very windy conditions. And we want to make sure that it's safe to turn power back on. Sometimes that can take less than an hour, but in a lot of cases it can take over 8 hours. We try to expedite that as quickly as possible. Most patrols are done via a troubleman in a truck. Sometimes you have to hike it. Sometimes the troubleman might have to use a drone. And in some instances where you have a very remote circuit, we have to patrol it via a helicopter. And so there's a lot of things that we have to wait for the daytime to do a helicopter patrol. We have to make sure it's safe for wind condition to fly the helicopter, but we try to apply all the resources we can to get the power back up as soon as we can. A little detail about the extreme nature of the wind and fire weather that we saw during the January events. This is a fire model. This is a screenshot from one of our fire scientists of the fire size potential that we were presented with during the month of January, during a few weeks in the January time, early January. We had 2 of the wettest winters in 2022 and 2023, which really built up that fuel. And then we had very little to no rain since April 2024, which created this very dry tinderbox condition. And October through December of 2024 was one of the driest periods in our area going back to 1895, just to underscore the importance of how dry it was and the need for PSPS. Extreme winds on top of that created those conditions. Winds were in the gusts in the 70s and 80s with some peaks of 100 miles an hour. This is just a quick slide to give you an idea of how we responded to the January events. Thousands and thousands of social media responses and media inquiries. We had 23 community resource centers, which we're going to talk a little bit more about. We had 23 resource community centers across the territory. We had 3,500 employees working on restoration, including contractors and utility workers from our sister utility to North PG&E. We replaced over 129,000 feet of conductor, 603 utility poles, and 165 transformers. I think on the right, and I'll show you some examples of damage that we had. We saw over 70 pieces of instances of damage upon restoring power across the territory. I think about probably 10, 11, or 12 of which were in your area, and I'll go over some of those. So like I said, this is 5 instances of damage found during a restoration patrol of circuits in your area. Number 1 there on the left, you'll see the red arrow that points to a loose conductor that came off of the main conductor, and that waving in the wind and touching ground could possibly cause an arc and spark if the power was on. And that was off the stack line off of Belgrave Avenue. Number 2, a similar situation. We had a wire down on Maverick Lane off the Galena 12 kV. Another one that we were building in 12 kV, we had a leaning pole. It's number 3. You can see it was leaning there. Number 4 on the high ball 12, we had a broken tap. You see the loose wire with the red arrow pointing next to it. And then the nailer 12 kV, we had a center phase broken off. You'll see the yellow box with the little wire. That is supposed to be shifted over to the left, sitting on the insulator where the red box is. So these are things that could have caused a wildfire in your area that we caught before we restored power. This underscores the importance of PSPS, especially during these extreme conditions. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about the community centers, but I wanted to tell you about the 2 that were helping serve the community during the January events. One of them was at the Veteran for Foreign Affairs, World Hall. They had approximately 1,400 visitors. In addition, during the second event, we had the Jurupa Valley Resource Center and 180 visitors. All right, I'm going to pass it off to Jack. He's going to talk a little bit more about our grid hardening and what we're doing to make the grid more resilient, resist the wildfires, and to try to reduce PSPS.
Thank you, Cameron. So my name is Jack Farah, and I'm the Senior Engineering Manager for our desert region that serves this Jurupa Valley and within field engineering, distribution engineering. So yes, I'll be discussing grid hardening within Jurupa Valley. And before I go into details of Jurupa Valley itself, I wanted to kind of address one of the most common questions that we've always received through friends, family members, communities is, why does my neighborhood have power when I don't, or my neighbor has power when I don't? And as you see in the illustration here, we have 2 different neighborhoods. One that is illustrated with the gray and white homes, and then one with the colorful homes right here. So although this community to the left is fed from an underground line, as you see, there are poles behind it that serves the facility that comes and goes through the high wind area with the high fire risk. So you might end up in a situation where your neighborhood it's all underground, but the circuitry that serves your neighborhood goes through those high fire risk areas that Cameron just discussed. You might be subject to PSPS. Versus your neighbor across the street, all overhead, but because they're located in an area where it's lower risk of fire, they might not be subject to PSPS. So this is one quick illustration, and I'll go through another one as well right here. So what I want you to focus on is I want you to focus on the orange circuit or segment or lines. As you see in this on this circuit, there are different residential homes, some that are outside of this highlighted yellow area, which is the Tier 2 high fire risk area, and some that are inside this highlighted area. So what this means here is if this segment, circuit, or section of the circuit is being impacted by high winds and all the risks that Cameron just described for us, and we meet that threshold, this neighborhood within the orange line can be subject to PSPS. Versus your neighbor right across the street, assume that they live on the line that is in light blue, they might not be subject to PSPS because they are in the low risk area. So this is just actually an AI generated illustration just to help explain the situation for why does my neighbor have power when I don't, and I really live across the street from them. It can be really frustrating, definitely do understand that, but it's not because of where you are specifically, it's because where your circuit that serves your neighborhood come from. So now we want to move toward the Jurupa Valley circuit. So Edison serves Jurupa Valley through over 30 circuits. And out of the 30 circuits, or 25 circuits, 15 of them are PSPS circuits, so they could be subject to PSPS. If you are interested to know what circuit you live on, please utilize this link. It's a public link. You can go in, put your address on, and then you can zoom out a little bit and click on the circuit that serves you, and you will know exactly what circuit you're energized by. So again, there are 15 of those circuits that are subject to PSPS. And over the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about 3 specific ones that were highly impacted with those recent events. Now, City Council team, if you need more information on the other circuits that can be started with SPS, please don't hesitate to reach out to ID and we'll give you some more information. So the first circuit that we'll be discussing is a little bit difficult to see. It's the Galena circuit. And this Galena circuit is served by a Glen Avon substation. So the substation is the source where the circuits exit. And it's represented by the star. So this is where Glen Avon substation is. And this is the Galena circuit. And as you guys residents see, it traverses through high-fire risk areas at different locations. This circuit is it's a pretty long circuit. It's a 35-mile circuit, and 54% of the circuitry is overhead, and 46% of the circuitry is underground. Now, one thing I would like to mention here is there are multiple sectionalizing devices on this circuit, and those sectionalized devices helps us be able to move sometimes when the condition allows, move some of the segments of that circuit to neighboring circuit. But it's not always a possibility to move circuitry around, and the goal obviously is to help reduce the impact of PSPS residents. And the reason being is because sometimes the neighboring circuit is also the subject of PSPS. Or we also look at loading and voltages and other things where maybe the receiving circuit cannot take on more load or cannot take on more electricity, and then that could cause other concerns. So a couple of colors we need to highlight on the Galena circuit as well. The light green showcases SE investment for completed cover conductor replacement. And the good news here too is that we have around 1 mile of future cover conductor that will be completed in 2025. So the goal of the cover conductor is to raise the wind threshold, so we hopefully would be less impacted with PSPS. The next circuit is the Staghorn out of Bain substation. And the Bain substation is located south of the 60 freeway. And as you see on this circuit, the Staghorn circuit, the high fire risk area is the area that is north of the 60. But as we just already described in previous slides, the resident being south of the 60 does not mean that you're not subject to PSPS, because you might be on the same line that goes all the way to the hills. So with this in mind, for this one, we've completed about half a mile of cover conductor already. And we have 1.5 miles of future cover conductor that should be completed by the end of 2025. And 1.5 miles is a lot of miles to complete, and that requires a lot of engineering support. You see here, and then one more thing I would like to address as well is every time we go through PSPS events, we have different groups within SCE that evaluates those circuits and what we can do differently for future projects so we can reduce future PSPS events. So that means that if we're looking at the Staghorn circuit, for example, this is not a one-time stop. We will look more to see what else we can do outside of every conductor in the coming future to reduce PSPS. And then last but not least is the highball circuit. So this highball circuit is fed from another substation as well. This is Building substation. It is a lengthy circuit as well. It's about 30 miles. 90% of it is overhead. And you see on the west side of the circuit, there's a lot of interactions with the high fire risk areas that could be, put the circuit to be subject to PSPS. And for this circuit specifically, we have also around 1 mile of completed cover conductor. And we have another 1 mile that should be completed in 2025, or is planned to be completed in 2025. All right, now I'm going to pass it on to Jennifer from our customer service to talk about the purchase.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Ocampo, and I work in customer service. So I'm here today to talk a little bit about resiliency and about customer programs and services that we offer. So here at SCE, we believe in a whole community approach where we work with community resource centers, community-based organizations, public safety partners, and critical infrastructures. So those is basically people that live in the community, that help the community. So they not only help us what the needs are, but they also help us understand and help us disseminate the information to our customers so that we together can really improve resiliency within our neighborhoods. So here are some steps that we can all take to improve resiliency. So the first one is share information about our customer programs and services. The other one is update your own your contact information. And we have Heather outside, and she comes from customer service, and she can actually look up your customer account and make sure that we have the correct information. And then the other one is make sure that you improve your personal and commercial resiliency and emergency preparedness. So we also have our partners with 211 United Way, and they're just outside, and they can help you create a personalized resiliency plan. And then the next one would be staying informed. So some of the programs and services that we offer in event, we have what's called community resource centers. So that is where we provide information to our customers. We prefer brick and mortar locations, which is indoors, and people can come in, charge their devices. We provide a resiliency kit. So in our resiliency kits, you can find like a small charging device, personal protective equipment like gloves or hand sanitizer. And we also give you water, ice, light snacks. So these centers are just designed for a community to come in and just kind of give you a safe space with electricity to power your devices. Also, we partner with 211 and other community-based organizations. And what they do in event is that they help you connect with food support, transportation, or accommodations as needed during the event. But just on a normal basis, they're basically an information and referral. So they're confidential, they're 24/7. And at any point you can dial 211 and connect with someone that is specialized in human services, and they can help you really create a plan for you and your family. The other one, which is called Disability Disaster Access and Resources, that is a very similar resources to 211, where they're very focused on customers who rely on electricity for medical devices. So if you have like a specialized need, they might be the people that are going to be helping you the most. They also have battery programs for loans, so they do long-term loans. And then another thing that some of our community-based organizations can help you with is enrolling in what we call the medical baseline program. So the medical baseline program, and this is why it's important, is for customers that rely on electricity for their medical devices. So it actually helps you pay your electric bill because it's designed to offset the cost of using that electric medical device. But also it lets us know who is in most critical need of that electricity. So when we're going to turn off the power, we provide additional notifications to those customers. So we will try them once, and let's say we get a bounce back. We'll try again, and if we're not able to connect with those customers, we could even send what we call it's an FSR, which is basically person on the field that would go to their home and knock on their door or the doorbell ring, just to make sure that we carry that information forward to those customers that need it most. And then also resiliency programs. I can't emphasize it more, but like our resiliency programs, it's something that would help you stay safe at home. So some of those are the DDAR Center, which I just mentioned. So they provide batteries for loans, small batteries for your medical devices. The other one is what we call the Critical Care Backup Battery Program. It's a mouthful, but it is designed to give you a free battery to charge your medical devices, and that battery you can keep it at your home and make sure you just have it charged all the time, so that when, if for some reason you need to turn off your power, you can use your medical devices. And lastly, we have baby event battery loan. We really want our customers to be prepared ahead of time and to have some of those more permanent solutions. But in the event that, let's say, you don't currently have a battery at home or a generator, you can dial 211, and they have a limited supply of in-event battery loads. So someone would come to your home and deliver a battery for the duration of that PSPS, and then come and pick it up from you. But it's a very limited supply. We really emphasize on having a more permanent solution. And then the last one is rebates and portable batteries, for portable batteries and generators. So that's designed for you to buy your own device so that you can charge, let's say, your small devices. So the portable batteries are more designed for small devices like your computer, your cell phone, and others. And then the generators, that would be for larger devices like your refrigerator. With that, I will pass it to my colleague, Luis Lara, and he's going to talk about resiliency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Lara. I'm with Outage Management and Communications. I'm with the Customer Engagement Division, and I'm really appreciative to being here with you guys tonight to share a lot of information. So let's go ahead and jump in. Now, before we do that, I do want to highlight just the, whoops, it's not moving forward. I think I broke the machine now. I think it's coming on that paycheck now. There we go. Okay. So two things I really want to highlight for you. Now, don't worry about it. I'm the last one in line, so we have just 65 more slides to get through. So just bear with me. We're going to get through it together. So I do want to share just a couple 2 points before we move on to the actual slides here. Number one thing I want to reiterate to everyone are the conditions that we experienced leading up to the January event. Right? Everything was completely dry, a lot of wind events, and this was during a time that is traditionally wet. This is where we experience most of our rains in our region, but that did not occur. We get into January, now we have a significant wind event where we've got a high fuel potential index and increasing threat, and that's what leads us into where we got into January. Now, as Edison will continue to move forward with grid hardening, you've probably heard that phrase a couple times. What is grid hardening? So that's everything from installing covered conductor and many other different mitigation efforts that we will deploy, like transitioning load. You may have heard that. So what is transitioning load? It is, we'll find an opportunity to move customers from this circuit to a neighboring circuit. If that's an option, if that's a possibility, then we will do that, and then we'll reduce or mitigate the impact to a lot more customers. So as we continue to deploy many of these mitigation efforts, we'll continue to do that on our end. However, as residents, as customers, there are things that we can do on our own. Okay? And that's where I want to jump in here right now. So what does preparedness mean for all of us? Okay? Now, this slide has a lot of information, but I do want to highlight just a couple of things for you. If you are a family, or if you know someone, a neighbor, a friend, a relative, someone down the street that might have a heightened medical need for power, it's very important that we have that information on our customer database. Okay? What will happen behind the scenes, let's say that we have someone that has a heightened medical need for power, that person is identified, or that household is identified as a critical care or medical baseline type of account or customer. What we'll do on that end is if we push out a communication to you and that communication comes back as undelivered, we will take additional steps to reach out and engage with you. If we're still not able to connect with you, then we will deploy a field resource to literally get out there and do a wellness check, if you will. So please help me spread that word to everyone in your neighborhood, anyone in your community. If you have a medical need for power, for whatever reason, let Edison know. Now, I get it. No one really thinks about Edison unless two things happen, right? You go to flip the switch and the lights don't come on, or you need to pay the bill. And in both instances, it's not the best interaction with Edison. However, we do have a lot of resources that we can help and continue to partner with you. So reach out to Edison. Again, if you have a medical need for power, let us know. Now, another commercial I want to throw out for you. We need to ensure that we have your updated contact information at all times. In order for us to push out notifications and information to you, we need to ensure that that email address, that phone number, that voice message that needs to get to you, it's going to the right contact information. So again, please, if you have an opportunity over the weekend or whenever it is, go into your Edison account and update your contact information. Now, in the meantime, what else can we do? Because we can lose power for any multiple reasons, not just PSPS. It could be a car ran into a pole. That happens quite a bit, okay? A tree toppled onto overhead equipment, and that happens a lot more often during PSPS events or windstorm events. So in that instance, what can we do in advance, right? Now here's a whole list of things. I'm not gonna go through each one, unless you really want me to. I'm okay with that. But one thing I do want to highlight for you is, now we all live in earthquake country, and we've heard the commercial for many years. Let's have a preparedness bag, let's have a go bag or something back. If something were to occur, what can we leverage? Now, I don't know about your household, but in my household, I need to think about medicine. If we have no power, if we have to evacuate because there's a fire. Now, I live in a high fire risk area, and there are constant fires in my area. So if I need to evacuate, what do I need to take? Do I have packed the medicine, the medication for my children? Do I have that ready? If I have a pet, what do I need to take with me for that? If I have someone with some mobility issues, how do I think in advance on how to move that person with me, that family member with me? Okay? So just want to plant that little seed in your head on how do we start planning in advance of something happening. It doesn't necessarily have to be a PSPS event. It could be any outage event or any emergency event. And as always, we need to ensure that we have a flashlight. Now, I cannot underscore that enough. For those of us that lose power, having a flashlight is an incredible tool. Another recommendation from me to you is having a small battery backup to charge your phone or even a small medical device, whatever it could be. But that small charger will help during this type of emergency. We need to get a hold of a relative or someone or let someone know that we're okay. Sometimes that battery backup helps. Okay? So let me jump over to the next slide. Now, if you're wondering, okay, well, how do we even begin that process of preparing? What do I know what to do? On SE.com, you can log on. We have a wealth of information, an incredible host of information on outage preparedness and outage tips. This is one form that you can download. Nothing is retained on the website. You can literally print it out. You can fill it out with your information. That way, in case of an emergency event, you can just grab that go and put it in your go bag, if you will, so that you don't have to start trying to remember the hospital number, the emergency number, like Kaiser member number, or whatever it is. It's all in one location, because during an emergency event that we need to evacuate, that's not necessarily going to be information that's top of mind for us. So if we plan in advance, we can really head that up. Mayor, I owe you and you. There we go. Okay. Now, you've heard me mention already a couple times, let's make sure that we have your updated contact information at all times. Now, we do have a team member that's in the back. When you exit outside, her name's Heather. She's super friendly, really nice person. So if you want to update your contact information tonight, we have a person to help you do that tonight. Okay? So if you can just walk outside and we'll do that tonight. Okay? Now, during an active PSPS event, we are pushing out notifications to you day in, day out, every 24 hours. Definitely we're sending something out to you. If I'm not mistaken, I think during these last couple of events, we sent approximately 8 million notifications. It was a lot of information getting out to our customers. And sometimes our customers were letting us know, hey, this is a lot. What does it even mean? How do I get my own information? So you can go on SE.com. We've created this map. It's an outage map. It's very, there's a lot of information in this one place. You can type in your address, and it'll let you know, number one, whether there are any outages in your area, unplanned, or what we call repair outages, whether there will be maintenance outages that are scheduled in the near future. Within the next 15 days, they'll begin to reflect here. But during a PSPS event, there'll be more information. It'll let you know where are the particular areas of concern. It'll also let you know whether there are additional resources and where those resources are located. Whether there's, say, we have a resource out at the Veterans Hall or whatever it is, all of that will be here available for you. So I understand that there may be a lot of pushing out of information to not make confusing, so this may serve as a resource to get additional information. Okay? Now, I know this is a very, very, very busy slide, but this is a lot of information that can help with the preparedness in advance. One component of preparedness for any outage event or any emergency event, and I really want to underscore this for you, is growing your own situational awareness. Okay? What does that even mean? So let's say, here's an example I like to give. Let's say it's a Sunday night, having a cup of coffee, watching the news, and you hear, oh, there's a significant wind event coming on Wednesday. This may impact our region. It's whatever it is, whatever that news is. At that point, I'd like to encourage you for that bit of news to trigger something, to start thinking, okay, if this goes from bad to worse, what does that mean for us? What does that mean for my family? What does that mean for my business? How can I start preparing in advance or thinking ahead of what can we do? What options do we have? Now, you can go on to SCE.com. Again, there's a wealth of information on preparedness, on just growing your own situational awareness. In fact, during PSPS events, we have a page that showcases what our weather, our meteorologist team are seeing. Now, it's not the exact data, but let me know that this is what we see in the next week or so. Okay? So just want to let that out and let you know about that. Now, I think I have one more slide. I think that's my last slide, or I just broke everything already. So thank you for your time, and let me throw it back to Eileen or the mayor, because I could go for another 20 minutes.
I appreciate that, thank you. That is the presentation from Southern California Edison. And now the next item on the agenda is to open this up to public comments. So we do have speaker cards. First of all, if you would like to speak tonight, you'll have 3 minutes. And tonight, unlike a council meeting, Southern California Edison is here and will do their best to answer your questions on the spot. So as soon as you're done with your question, your 3 minutes is up, then Edison can respond. And the first speaker is Catalina Gonzalez.
Hello, my name is Catalina Gonzalez.
They're going to bring the mic over to you.
Hello, my name is Catalina Gonzalez. I live in Jurupa Valley. I'm out there living there for 29 years, and the lights never turned off. And now, we live in Social Security. We're retired, and I'm a caretaker. I buy groceries after we get our money, and we lost out all our groceries. Do we get a rebate on the light bill, or how does that work? Oh, we don't get no rebate.
Okay, that's the question for Edison. What is the policy for damaged foods during a PSPS event?
Sure. We do have a claims process for that. A lot of people, you can go online, SC.com claims, there's a whole process for that. In fact, you can track it online. We just ask you to submit receipts or give it maybe a paragraph of what your experience was, the approximate dates of when that experience occurred, and then our team on claims will review that, everything on its own merit, and then reply to you. Just to let you know, the claims process will take about 30 days, give or take, to get back to you. But I'm going to be honest with you that you're going to punch me in the nose tomorrow. But it's about 30 days.
Good. See, instant answers, so hopefully that helped you. The next speaker is Wendy Lamelli. Wendy?
Hi, my name is Wendy Lamelli, and I've been living here in Jurupa Valley for 10 years now. And like she mentioned, up until a couple of years ago, we've been experiencing a lot more increase in power shutoffs. With COVID experience recently, we have been working from home. So the power shutoffs have been affecting our livelihood. You know, we have had to go out and buy expensive equipment like an inverter for us to be able to work from home. My husband and I both work from home. He works downstairs, I work upstairs. We have divided equipment, like I said, extension cords, everything for us to be able to even work from home. There's times that we haven't been able to even utilize that and have had to use my PTO, personal PTO, to even get paid for the day. So my question is this going to be the new normal for us in Jurupa Valley, where we have to continue living with these ongoing power shutoffs?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let me just parrot the question, just make sure I understand it correctly. The question is, we experience a lot of outages, PSPS events, is this our new normal? That's the question, okay. So the primary driver for us when we have to leverage a PSPS event, first of all, it's not the first tool we go to, right? That's not the first thing we want to do. We're not in the business of shutting off power to customers. That's just really not what we're built for. However, the primary driver during these PSPS events is really the safety of our communities. So if we see the conditions materializing to a level that is very likely increasing the potential of a hazard to our communities, then we will have to understand whether we need to leverage the PSPS event. If we need to leverage it, how can we mitigate that impact to certain customers? And I know we had some team members talk about that. Can we move some customers over? Can we roll some of that load? Can we minimize the impact to customers or exposure to some of that customer load? So the short answer is PSPS will be a tool in our resource toolkit. It's not our first lever that we're going to leverage, but it is something that we will continue to leverage if we need to. Now, let me set that aside, because there are some other engineering opportunities that our team members have identified. So with the different circuits that were at least demonstrated tonight, there are some opportunities that we can capture either this year or next year to further harden that grid, so that when those winds do come through, because we all know they're going to come through, is it possible to increase the thresholds so that we don't have to de-energize customers as often as we did in the past? So I hope I answered your question. I may have given you way too much.
No, not really.
That's my time.
You didn't answer their livelihood. She works from home. You didn't answer that.
Okay. Thank you for the response to that question. And the next speaker is Nanette Seda-Latzgis. Right back there. Hang on, I'll bring the mic right over to you.
Good evening, I'm Nanette Seda-Latzgis. I have 5 bullet points and I'd like to address them all to you, and I can do it in 3 minutes. Number 1, Mr. Mayor, no one answers your phone in your office. You don't even have an office phone number, and your secretary never calls anyone back when she doesn't check the voicemail. Number 2, this meeting was put on social media. Not everybody has social media. There are people who are illiterate, there are people who are blind, there are people who are deaf, there are people who are mentally challenged and don't use social media. Try sending out a postcard. Number 3, and this addresses to SCE and to the mayor's office. Why are none of you considering hiring people to help people get these programs in place, get the grants that are out there for them, so that these things are simplified for individuals? It's really hard to apply for grants and those types of things. The average person has a lot of trouble having any success getting these programs to work for them. So could you please consider hiring a team of people at the city level and at SCE level to make these things happen? Number 4, the wind. The wind is part of our lives here in Jurupa Valley. It's been part of my life for the last 35 years. Because of these power shutoffs, our property values are probably deteriorating. You came through my neighborhood and you replaced power poles. Why did you replace power poles when you could have just as easily trenched those areas, because there were no, we have no sidewalks. You could have trenched them underground and these problems wouldn't be existing in my neighborhood. Or they would be a lot less. And number 5, the generators. You have all these generators available on your website, but they don't do enough for a household. They will not power a refrigerator. Can you help us get rebates for the generators that we have to buy to power our refrigerators for those 4 days with absolutely no power? I lost the power supply to my water heater. I lost the power supply to my garage door opener. Gee, thanks. But I do want to say thank you, SCE, for all of the things that you do provide. You did provide a small generator to run my CPAP machine, and you have done a lot to try to help the community. But this community is suffering because these power shutoffs are killing us and killing our property value. Thank you.
Well, you did it in just under 3 minutes. Congrats on that.
Oh, and the other thing, when you guys talk to us, like when you're calling roll call, like I said, raise your hands. We don't know who you are, because none of you ever show your face and never tell us when these meetings are happening, because you don't send out a postcard to every constituent in your community.
We appreciate those comments, and we take those to heart. We will continue to have open dialogue about how we get the message out better in the future. Social media is one aspect, the website's another. And by the way, as far as reaching a council member, if you have internet access, then if you have internet access, all of our emails are on the city website. And I'd be happy to provide you a business card tonight, which has my cell phone number on it. Anybody's welcome to use that at any time. I think all of the council members have a cell phone that they're willing to talk to you. I mean, that's what we do.
You know they won't give that to you at the, when you call the city, they won't tell us you have no phone number to reach that.
Okay, well, you can reach out to us directly and we can provide that to you without question, without fail. We'd be happy to do that. Obviously, you have issues with the wind and why Edison does it underground. I can't answer that question. Maybe Edison has a quick remark about when you're replacing poles, why you're not undergrounding on existing lines. Is that something you're prepared to answer?
Okay. Sorry, I'm the ham here. Oh, perfect. We have a better person.
I don't know if it's better, but no, I think that the question you've raised regarding why don't we go back with undergrounding, and I think it's a very fair question. So, in my limited knowledge, and we will definitely follow up with a more detailed answer, is it depends on the situation. So, if it's planned work, there are cases where we have different rules that we have. We work with the PUC and the city, like we call them Rule 20s, and in those cases, we might end up going back undergrounding based on this specific situation. For new construction, we might be installing underground. If it's an emergency response, typically the quickest response is to go back like for like, but that doesn't mean that our strategy as a company is not to go underground. So again, we'll follow up with more details, but it's all situational.
Hi, I wanted to address one of your questions about accessibility and having our customers a dedicated person to help you enroll and help people with disabilities enroll in programs and services. So we're really happy to say that we have recently partnered with 211, which are specialized in social services, so they can really help you navigate the process, because we understand that those processes can be difficult. And we also have a partnership with what's called the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers, which run the DDAR program. It's a mouthful: Disability, Disaster, Access and Resources. And their whole motto is helping people with disabilities. And a lot of them have disabilities themselves too, and they can actually help our customers enroll in the programs. And I believe they're more relatable because some of them have lived similar situations, so they can actually help our customers navigate those programs.
Thank you, Edison, for those responses. The next speaker is Bernard Murphy. They'll come right to you.
My name is Bernard Murphy. Edison's here, that's great. But I think the important thing to remember is these fires that have occurred, like the 49 fire that burned down the Bushko's house, that was a guy running away from the sheriff's department unsuccessfully. The Clay fire was started by a guy from the river bottom, and they caught that arsonist. The source of fire is not just Edison. There's a problem with the fuel. If you look at that slide number 5, you'll see that most of the fires have occurred recently. So this is what I'm looking for from the city council. When you have staff preparing a long-term management plan for public open space, please allow for fuel mitigation. I'd like to leave you with this last thought. When one of my neighbors' house burns down, they become homeless. If there's some individual in an encampment in the river bottom, and the Santa Ana river bottom burns down, they're still bones.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Laura Schultz.
Hi, my name is Laura Schultz, and I live over in District 1, and unfortunately I'm off the Camino circuit. One of the things that I found out with SC Edison and the PSPs is that they don't realize there are other things that go on. My power went off on January the 8th, Wednesday. No notifications, no anything. On Thursday evening, as I'm looking and seeing the power's being turned on, I put our address in and absolutely nothing. So I go over to BMW, and they spent like 15-20 minutes trying to figure out what was going on with our power. And this is the power that runs basically from Mission, Kennedy over to Feldspar down hundreds and hundreds of homes. They showed we had no power outages. It took them quite a while to figure it out. It was a macro event, apparently. SCE needs to do better on training their representatives out there. It took an online chat within SCE to figure it out. So macro event, and we had to turn in a trouble ticket. Now, and I said, well, why wouldn't you know that our power was out? You know everything else. It took SCE 3 days. Finally, on Friday, they sent out a representative, and he was dispatched to verify that there was no power to this area. And he came back and said, oh, the reason SCE didn't know was outdated grid maps. Great. So what area did you think that those power was out? And then the safety of those employees, they're thinking that this power, this equipment over here is bad, and this one over here is live, and they're being dispatched. There's safety there. So again, so Saturday power comes on for a brief moment, and then it goes back out. Actually, it was Friday night coming back out, on Saturday, going back. Now this is where I'm really, you can't blame PSPs for everything. On Saturday, I went back up to VFW, verified we were outside of a PSP. Outside the PSP. So we had to turn a new trouble ticket. Sunday, we're going, and they made sure we had notifications. Absolutely, the last one was in March. So bottom line is, they said it was going to be dispatched Monday. They're on their way. This is 4 o'clock, 5:30. They said, oh, your power is being turned off for a PSP event. Wait a minute, how do you turn power that's already off? I go look, and sure enough, now we're in a PSP area. And then that night, about 10:30, our power comes on. What the heck? So my concern is, and I know several people here, and then when you talk about those reimbursements, they're denied at their PSPs. So, and then the next day I went, and somebody at SC decided to draw a line around and say, that's PSP. So you need to do better as water and understanding what's going on.
Thank you for your comments. I do know that of your situation and many other people that spoke to me at the VFW during the January events, and also followed up with the government elected official Edison Zoom meetings that you had. So I know firsthand that Edison has said that there were some issues with the system in general, and with the notifications and things not being correct. Can you speak to what is being done to mitigate that for future events?
Sure. In fact, with our notification platform, we're actually transitioning this year to a new platform, so we should see significantly more improvements on that space. So stay tuned, there will be more to come. However, specifically with your situation, I would like to connect with you on the side, because it seems like it was very particular. So I'd like to connect with you, get some more details, and so you and I can kind of connect afterwards. And if there's some mapping issue on our side that is not correct, I want to make sure that it's done right for you. So we can connect afterwards. I would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much. The next speaker is Zoe Hanlon. Zoe? Is that you up in the very... Is that Zoe?
Yeah.
Okay, way up there.
Hello, my name is Zoe Hanlon. I live over by the Rubidoux golf course on a cul-de-sac. We're very close-knit cul-de-sac. Edison keeps telling us to keep being prepared, but nothing can prepare you for being out of power for 150 hours. Nothing can prepare you for your daughter having pneumonia at the same time and calling the city, calling Edison, calling 211, asking for an emergency generator because she had to have nebulizer treatments every 4 hours or she was going to be admitted to the hospital. No one could help me. 211 told me they could get me a generator in 2 weeks, which is absolutely insane. The resiliency kits that we were given, I don't know what a mask and gloves is going to do for me when our power's out. We were given one rechargeable light bulb, but the problem is you can't charge the light bulb if you don't have power. You have to have a light bulb, like a socket. So that lasted, I don't know what, 4 hours for us? Yeah. The line hardening that's mentioned, I understand you all are doing your best. I understand that on the website it says that it should be completed 2025. But if you look on it, there's also other areas that have been, we should be done in 2024. Nothing's done on it. It has a little checklist of things that are done. So I think it's hard for us to believe that the hardening is actually going to be done anytime soon when other areas are still being worked on. And then you guys also mentioned the claims for food loss. They're not covered for anything involving wind. So power safety shutoffs, it says directly on your website that we will not be reimbursed. We were out on Thanksgiving for 3 days a couple years ago, lost hundreds of dollars of food, nothing. People have already put in claims for their food from this last 7-day outage. They got denied. And the questions that I have for Edison are, why is our power shut off twice as much as any other electrical company, including PG&E, which is responsible for the Paradise Fire? And then the next question is, why are our bills just as high, if not higher, when our power was out for 7 days during that bill period?
That was quite a lot of comment there.
Yeah, the last
and everything I totally get it. Maybe Edison can speak to some of these issues.
It's just the last two things that I had to question.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. Regarding why is the power shut off more than, I think you mentioned double than other utilities. I think you might have mentioned SDG or PG&E. The simple fact is we are different utilities. We have slightly different protocols. We use similar terms, but we have slightly different protocols. And I think the biggest difference is kind of the way our systems are designed. We have different engineering standards. We have different protocols for the way we build our systems. We have different topologies, and the way we design our circuits and switches. And I think the biggest difference is the way that those circuits, the topology of the circuits, and the way they traverse the high-fi risk areas. And they're very different. And so that's probably why, and subject to very different conditions as well. The Edison territory, we have the highest and lowest points in the continental United States within 70 miles of each other, just to give you an idea of the diversity of the terrain, which explains probably why, in addition to the different protocols, just different areas subject to different conditions. And then the question regarding cost, I don't know I'm not a billing person. I don't quite know why you'd be charging more if your power was not on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like our whole cul-de-sac, and several people have posted online. I understand you guys can't like dive into that. You do need to see the bills and everything, but that is a concern that many of us have.
Okay, maybe we can take her information and take a dive into that. Yeah. So let me see Luis and we can dive into it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. And one other question, she made a good point about your capital improvement program, which would include the hardening of these 3 circuits, some in 2025 and some in 2026. Can you assure our residents that you will actually be moving forward with this?
Yes, the information that we put on the slide for the 2025 work has been checked in the week before the meeting with our project management team. So we definitely need to be completing work by 2025. And I'm actually a bit concerned if you actually still see their conductor for whatever reason that we highlighted in 2024. Let's also talk as well, because that's a concern in terms of mapping, in terms of information my team is receiving, because we put a project in place and we expect them to be in place. So the information again for the 2025 work is based off of not even a week old information.
Okay. Let me add one thing. We always, every year, we will evaluate our wildfire mitigation program portfolio. We not only look at our suite of mitigations, but we also take a look at the PSPS events, the circuits that are impacted, the frequently impacted circuits, and to make sure that our grid hardening plan of that year doesn't need to be revised. And so we do that on a once-a-year basis, so that will help as well. In addition to, I know that the website needs to be updated, and I know a team is working on that.
Okay, and I know the next speaker is probably sitting right next to you. Nathan, did you want to also speak on this?
So I guess she pretty much touched on everything. I think the one question that she touched on that didn't get answered was the food reimbursement, which Edison kind of puts like an out on their part. So they can never be held liable for all the people in the community, loss of food and other things like that. And then also, I think the sad thing with all this is these power outages cause residents to feel that they have no other choice other than to be preyed upon by these solar companies after these events. And unfortunately, these are lowering resale value as much as they tell people like, hey, it's gonna up the resale value of your house and everything like that. Unless you purchase solar outright, that is not the case. It's actually decreasing your value. So I know in our neighborhood, I see more and more panels on houses the second we have like a long outage. And it's really sad because I think this is going to be a statewide problem as these people come and realize like, hey, solar is not the solution, at least not at these astronomical rates that these companies are charging our citizens. And Edison kind of pushes everybody there too. Well, have you thought about solar? But they don't give you the resources of what is a good option, right? Because if you put a power purchase agreement on your house, for instance, you're decreasing your home value unless you're locked into a power purchase rate from 2015. Most people don't want to take on other people's debt, so it's really this kind of thing that everybody gets caught in, and it's really sad. But the reimbursement for food, biggest thing, because I feel like it kind of gets dodged and everyone gets confused.
Okay, thank you. And if Edison can provide clarification for us on whether PSPS is qualified for food replacement reimbursement or not when when it's a PSPS event, because as what the resident is saying is that PSPS would be excluded, and we want to know, we just need to know what the policy is, if you have that.
There we go. Yes, so we do have a claims process for that. If you want something more specific as far as a policy for PSPS, I can connect with you on that. In fact, I think it's best if we connect with the city to kind of narrow that down. That way you have that information as well. But I do want to commit to some policy right now, just from the podium, so I can confirm with that.
Yeah, we'd like to have that.
So we do have, there is a set claim process for any impact to where the customer is.
Regardless if it's PSPS or something else.
Yeah, a customer can submit, and then that will be reviewed on its.
So
we've
been
specific PSPS. I don't want to grandstand on a policy until I have that confirmation.
Okay, I think the important thing to know is that if SCE has denied people and saying that it's outside of your policy, we need to understand the policy so that we can let residents know maybe they were denied incorrectly and maybe they need to resubmit. Or perhaps, as the other resident, Laura Schultz, mentioned, you know, hers wasn't listed in a PSPS even though it was. Maybe that has something to do with some denials, but we need instructions to tell our residents how they can get the refund or the check for their spoilage. Okay, so we will look for a future answer on that.
Has anybody ever got a refund? Because I don't know anybody who has.
Okay, the next speaker, Mr. David D. He's right there.
Thank you. My name is David Duchon. I live in this community for 40 years. First of all, I'd like to thank you as city manager for putting this together, because this takes a lot of work. And thank you also, Southern California Edison, for being here. After looking at your PowerPoint presentation, this is all bad engineering design. It has nothing to do with us as the public. It has nothing to do with the wind. When we design a bridge, we assume that bridges are full semi-truck load at all the time. The chance of that happening is 1 in a million, but it still has to be happening. The power pole cutting in half of the wind that we had is poor engineering through R&M, repair and maintenance. You guys are not paying attention to that. You should have a relay 57, 81 distance relay for your substation in case center phase gets B phase is attached to A phase trips. We live in this community I live in here 40 years. In 2008, the wind in this area was 37.8% higher than the wind we had this year. We had higher wind, but we never had a power outage. But now we're facing power outage. Is that because you're not spending the money to repair and maintenance of your equipment? Is that because of the poor engineering design you're doing? That's one thing. The other thing, during the power outage, no one on the city council was available to help the community. The only person that called everyone was Armando called people and said they need any help. I personally got help call if I needed help. So that's one lesson we learned, that during this crisis, the people got to be available in City Hall to help people. The second thing is, I really strongly believe that Edison is taking back on repair and maintenance, getting back on very poor engineering design, so we as a public are paying for it. Thank you.
And the next speaker is Maria Laura, and this needs translation.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es María Lara y vivo aquí en esta comunidad hace 25 años. Y en los tiempos de antes, cuando yo llegué, me recuerdo que los vientos eran más fuertes. y nunca había habido, que yo me di cuenta, nunca habíamos tenido una fuerte falta de luz.
I don't remember there ever being any turnout or energy power turnouts at that time, and the winds were much greater.
Ahora que nos pasó a nosotros, tuvimos 6 días sin luz.
We were without light for 6 days.
Perdimos comida,
We lost food.
pero el punto más fuerte que tuvimos
The most important point,
fue los que tenemos generadores,
those of us with generators,
gastar en gasolina. Eso nadie lo ha tomado en cuenta.
nobody takes that into account.
Y Edison, eso debería de ver,
And Edison should be responsible.
porque no todos tuvimos la manera de monetaria para estar, ¿cómo le dijera? Como cubriendo nuestro hogar en comida diario estar yendo a comprar y la gasolina todos los días.
Many of us do not have the funds to buy the food because every day we have to go out and buy food, and we also have to pay for the gas for the generator. And many of us do not have the economic means to do that.
Ahora yo de todo corazón le pido a Edison, no por nosotros estamos todavía en una edad suficiente que nos defendemos.
I ask this of Edison. We are at an age where we can still make do for ourselves and defend ourselves.
Pero les pido que si vuelven a hacer o quitarnos luz por más tiempo, que se enfoquen en ir a visitar o a ver las colonias o la área donde quitan la luz, ir a enfocarse en los señores mayores.
She wants to make sure that if there's another situation like this again, that Edison takes responsibility of looking at or dealing with whether many seniors, senior facilities, senior homes, senior centers, to make sure that they are cared for.
Porque hubieron en nuestro lugar donde nosotros vivimos, tenemos señores mayores que no tienen hijos, no tienen familia y estuvieron sin luz, sin generador, sin nada, caminando todos los días, tocando nada más.
We had seniors who were left, who don't have family, who didn't have anybody helping them out, that were just, walking around trying to figure out what to do because they had no resources or any help.
Nada más, lo último, quiero darle las gracias al señor Carmona y a Verónica Sánchez, que ellos sí se preocuparon por llevarle comida a los señores mayores.
I would like to thank the 2 council members, Carmona and Sanchez, who did go make the effort to take food to the seniors who were so in need of that.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Buenas noches. Muchas gracias, María, por the comentario. Thank you very much for your comment. We hear you loud and clear. A couple of things that I want to mention. Pertaining to rebates, I'm not very familiar with the rebates, but we just recently got into a partnership with Feeding America. So with that partnership, they're going to be able to help the community members that are most vulnerable and they have lost food through the PSPS. And that would be up to 3 days after a PSPS. They can contact Feeding America and get a food box so that they don't experience food insecurities. In terms of the gas for generators, I would encourage you to contact your local independent living center. They help through resiliency, and one of the things that they do offer is gas for fuel for your generators. So yes, feel free to contact them, and they can help you with that, because we understand the financial hardships and everything. It's on the slide, so I would go to sc.com. Search for Access and Functional Needs or AFN, and you would look on the web page and there's going to be information about the local ILCs, which is, they manage what's called Disability Disaster Access and Resources, and they're the ones that are able to help with the food vouchers.
Thank you. And I think, from the city standpoint, we will compile some sort of a list that we can put on our website to mimic the various agencies that people can reach out to so that everybody's on the same page. The next speaker is Mary Vitalis. Back there.
Hi, my name is Mary Vitalis, and I've been a resident for more than 50 years here, and again, the lady who addressed a lot of stuff that I wanted to speak of. And for right now, I wanted to see, you put out on the screen a lot of numbers and websites, and I wanted to see if that could be, do you have that printed out for us to go home with, to refer to when we need to reach out? And the other question is generators. I've heard a lot come up on generators. I can't afford to buy one. So, do you guys have a program that can help and assist with getting one?
The city does not have a program, but Edison has the 211, which is not them, it's some other agency that potentially may have a solution. But we as the city are looking at other methods here and how possibly we can potentially get something like that we could lend for long term.
Right.
But we don't have it today, but we will be working toward a goal with that.
Like the other lady that spoke earlier, she said that it was going to take, what, 2 days or something?
2
like that?
weeks.
2 weeks to get that.
By that time, it's too late. So.
Right, and especially if you have children in the house. And that's why I'm asking if there's a program to help us purchase a generator. Maybe you don't have, I'm not asking for a free generator, but some kind of program to help us afford to get one, because they cost, they're outrageous, and we can't afford, I can't afford them. But when you're out of electricity for 5 or 6 days, and more than one time, it's like she said, she's been here many, many years, and she's never experienced these outages. I've never had either. And to be able to live without power. And I feel that some kind of program should be set out there for us, for generators.
Does Edison have, I know you have rebate or discounts on batteries and things like that, backups, but do you also have any kind of program for discounts on generators?
Yes, so we have one program, it's a rebate program for generators. So if you were to purchase a generator, we can reimburse you up to $200 for normal customers. Or if you're enrolling one of the programs like for the low income, which are called CARE or FARA, or MPL, is up to $600.
Do you know how much generators cost?
Can I help you on that? I've done a lot of research on your website. Can I help you answer that question? Sure. Okay, so do you have a program that helps people, like, if you have a medical need for that equipment, they have a program that will bring a generator right to your home at no cost to you, and it is a solar generator. Number 2, they have a website, which, again, website, not everybody uses the internet, and I own that comment. But on their website, they have a whole list of generators at different price ranges, and they will rebate you up to $600 on the purchase of a generator. And that's through the state, that's not through them, but they're kind enough to show you the list of some of those generators that apply. So the people, they said they have people out there that can help you and us, all of us, get what we need as far as these kind of things, like the little girl. Even if we talk to each other in our neighborhoods, We locked our doors. We don't talk to each other. If we became a community again, hello? You guys are there? If you made us a community again, we need to share these things. Because I had a generator that could help my neighbor back here. But I don't know them because they don't open their door and they don't talk to people. I'm sitting next to two ladies who live in my neighborhood. They don't know me and I don't know them. Help us become a community again. Thank you.
And thank you for doing the research and sharing that with us. We appreciate that. Moving to the next speaker, Daniel Silva.
Yeah. So do you guys have a printout of all that information, the websites and phone numbers that we can take?
They say they do. They say that they have that for you.
I'll pick it up in the front.
Okay.
Thank you.
So next is Daniel Silvas. Over here.
How's it going? A little too loud. Sorry about that. My name is Daniel. I live in my beautiful city, Jurupa Valley. I have a couple of points here, about 9. I want to say, why was the event so bad this time around compared to other times? Also, why doesn't Edison put the RTRP, the Riverside Transmission Reliability Project, all on the ground, from Norco all the way to Riverside, all of it? And Edison, what can you tell my neighbors who have medical needs? You know, I have a good friend, he needs a CPAP machine to go to sleep at night, and he couldn't use it, and he was afraid to go to sleep. What can you tell, you know, for people, customers I can? And here's some feedback. The main concern of my community, my neighbors, is not an earthquake, but when is the next major power shutoff? And also, I believe someone said this in the crowd, why are prices so high? A lot of my neighbors are complaining about that too, especially when the power is not on. Another feedback, everyone supports underground transmission power lines. The SoCal Edison know that there's a senior assisted living home facility that didn't have power for about 7, 8 days. What can you guys tell them for all those senior people right there? I'm glad that Edison is making money, but can Edison keep the power on for Jurupa Valley small businesses for them to make money too? You know, it'd be nice. And last thing, I want to thank council members Armando Carmona, Veronica Sanchez for keeping the public notified and helping them out with food. And I appreciate you guys in the city. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I think most of what you've asked has been covered. We won't be talking about RTRP. That's not on tonight's agenda. So we will move to Myrna Torres.
Good evening, City Council members, staff, and Edison. My name is Myrna Torres, I'm a community activist. So I have a couple of questions for you. On one of your slides, you said that you notified the government 3 days prior, but you notified us 2 days. That's concerning, especially when you have like a 7-day notice that you mentioned. So I would like to address that. You also had a slide with the damaged poles and lines. You mentioned them, you showed us a slide, but you didn't cover if they were already repaired. 15 of the circuits you mentioned, out of 35, need some type of update, repair, whatever you want to call it. That's 42%. I only heard that you covered 2 for 2025. Let's see, what else do I have? Backup batteries for solar panels. Yes, a lot of our community is upgrading to solar panels. So are there any grants available for that, or will there be in the future for myself or any of our residents that are currently on solar? Feedback. Thank you for opening up the VFW. Really appreciate it. It was not large enough. I know you signed a large contract with them for the next couple of years, but that is also not enough for the amount of residents that needed support. Your solar battery did not work. Your ICE coupon was expired, and the snacks provided were 2 waters and 2 snacks. Though I appreciate it, please know that there are multi-generational homes, and that is not enough. I would like to thank all the city council members, Carmona, Chris, Brian, Veronica, and Willie. You guys did show up for your community, and I appreciate that. I was at the VFW when Willie showed up with numerous pizzas from the Pizza Plug to feed the residents that are hungry. There was no food. There was not enough notice. How will we charge and get support for our family when we travel, when we work full time? When you know 7 days in advance and we only get 2. You can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Myrna. Very valuable comments. We will have 2 more speakers, and that will wrap up public speaker comments. George Revilla is the next speaker, back up there. And the last speaker is Gabriela Marquez, I think.
So, my question is for Southern California Edison. Regarding the notifications, yes, I've gotten notifications, and if you can see, I have pages and pages full of notifications from SCE. My question is, if we're going to be doing a combination of both maintenance outages and wind outages, when does it ever stop? Literally, I've had a power shut off every month this year. When is it going to stop? And I came here to get a schedule for the Galena circuit completion, but all I got is 2025, so I don't know if you guys can be any more specific about that. And also I want to ask the city is, what mitigation efforts are you making to make sure that if there ever was a wildfire, it wouldn't be something that could be out of control? That's
First of all, before we go to the last speaker, Berna, you did ask about solar rebates. That question I can ask Edison. Do you have any programs now or planning any upcoming programs to deal with battery backups and solar, and whether it's grant opportunities or rebates or something? Is there anything SCE has available?
So we currently have what's called the Self-Generation Incentive Program. That's a state program and it's available on our website. There's specific eligibility requirements, so you would have to go in and make sure that you're eligible to participate in those programs.
Will I get an answer for review of more application to our residents and to everybody in our city instead of just 2 days?
Do you have any answers? No. Let me try to parrot the question back because I'm not sure if I really caught it.
My question was that in one of your slides, you said that you kind of have an idea 7 days in advance, and you notify the government 3 days in advance, but you don't notify us, the residents, 2 days in advance.
Got it.
We live in multi-generational homes, we work full-time, we travel, that's not enough time. We're the ones paying the bill. With all due respect to our government, we're the ones that are, writing you a check or paying you however we're paying you. Why aren't we the last to know?
Got it. So your question is, if you're notifying government 3 days in advance, why not notify us at the 3-day mark as well, or instead of the 2-day mark?
Right.
Correct? Okay. So one factor here that we really need to make sure that is present during this conversation is the volatility that we experience with weather conditions. So let's say if 7 days in advance, our in-house meteorological team identifies, hey, there's a potential threat here, we need to keep an eye on it. Okay? So if we begin to notify you 7 days in advance, 10 days in advance, as it is, we're already overwhelming customers with notifications.
I
So,
didn't get overwhelmed with any. I didn't receive any.
Okay, so then you and I need to connect to make sure that you have your updated contact information. Okay, so I need to make sure that we're lockstep on that delivery of notifications for you. Now, because the weather volatility is significant, we know we have a higher percentage of realization and understanding that weather will impact our community at about 2 to 3 days out. So in anticipation of that, we want to start engaging with our public service partners, our public safety partners, to let them know, hey, this is likely to materialize. Now, let's say the next day starts to come through, we see weather beginning to materialize, or it could begin to descend. So at that point, there's no need to sound the alert with the public, but rather connect with our cities and our counties and let them know, hey, it looks like this is subsiding, or it may be delayed, or the other way around. You know what? Weather conditions have become extremely volatile. Now we need to do a different approach. So that's generally the idea of why there's a cadence to notifications in that manner. So,
and it's a semi-quick response, but we can still get 3 days. Backing it up one additional day will not hurt you, and we're adults here. We can handle it. We can see, okay, there was a change. It's not an emergency after all. We might not lose power. Thank goodness. But to have those 3 days to prepare, because everybody goes out, we rush to the grocery store, we prepare, things run out. It takes 3 days for the grocery store to get restocked. And we have 111,000 plus residents here. So I understand what you're saying. It's a semi-okay answer, but again, you can do better. If they're okay to know 3 days in advance, we can handle it. If they're okay to know 3 days in advance, you know what? It wasn't volatile after all. You know, we can handle that too. They're just one step ahead of us in residency. They're residents and they're city council members. We're residents, so we can handle it if it changes. Just something for you to consider, because you have individuals with medical devices that did not have the support that they needed.
point well taken. I will definitely take that feedback with me. Definitely. I appreciate that.
What I wanted to mention was medical reimbursements. We talked about grocery reimbursements, but what about all those people that refrigerate their medication and they lost that medication? Is there something on your website that covers that?
So again, if we're getting something into granular as far as the medication reimbursement, I do not want to make policy from the podium. I do not want to do that. I definitely don't want to do that.
Then come to the next meeting
So-
and prepare for that, please.
So what we'll do is we'll connect with the mayor, with City Council, and let me know what we're able to identify, what policy exists in place. But I really don't want to lead you astray or frustrate you anymore. Generally, that's my gift in life, is frustrating people, and I don't want to do that.
Again, concern, you're going to notify city council. We're the residents. I've heard that a couple of times today. We're going to notify that answer to city council or to your local government. How about us? That's why we're here tonight. That's why you received all, I don't know how social media, but I saw the stats. It's because people want to know. We want to know. And sometimes, again, with all due respect to our government, things get lost in translation. So we want to hear it from you.
Point well taken. Thank you for that.
You also have a website that's supposed to be telling us updates that is really badly put together. You can put all those dates and times and hours and all that on one Excel spreadsheet, hit one button, and get it all organized. You have to go down that whole list and during this power outage, that list was so long. There were how many outages? And we had to go through every single one, hoping to find the one that related to our neighborhood, which sometimes it didn't. And your people were updating that website and completely changed it while the power outages were going on. And they didn't even fix that simple thing. You have web designers. You pay them a lot of money. Get them to at least design something that is comprehensive and easy to read. If we have to depend on the internet for junk, then make it dependable. You haven't even done that.
Thank you for the feedback on that. You will see some changes to that particular landing page. That's actually happening.
It's not happening well. I'm watching it.
Thank you.
So the other question from the other gentleman was about the Elliott circuit that's going to get harder. Do you guys have a best estimate on time frame? I mean, you said by the end of the year, but I guess really the question is, when is it actually going to be done?
Yeah, no, we definitely do have better timing. Let me see. I'm trying to remember which one. Let me follow up. Because I don't write down the notes on it. Well, one of them was end of the year, one of them was actually Q2 of 2024.
Quarter two?
Yeah, so I don't know which one exactly, so I don't want to make that mistake.
What I'd say is that if you can provide that to us, then Rod, we can put it on the city website to give the residents a place to view not only all the contact information that they put up on the screen tonight, but these specific dates as well.
Yeah, I do want to answer your two other questions too. The first one that shows the conductor or the potential challenges there. Yes, if the power was restored, that means somebody went in there and fixed it. So we're not gonna return the power back on if they're not corrected. And then for the other 15 circuits, those were the 3 highly impacted circuits. That does not mean that we didn't do any hardening on the other ones. Actually, the Naylor one, we've done hardening already. We got a core conductor. There's the other circuit that I was doing some research on. But again, we just highlighted the worst or the most impacted PSPS circuits from the last event. So we have 4,000 circuits, 1,100 of them, all in wildfire areas, and we do have strategies to address every single one of them. Now you guys know it's a lot of circuitry, so we can't get to all of them all in time, right? Like tomorrow, right? So for the other ones, we can go back if that's the ask, and then highlight what has been hardened and what we have in the future as well.
Thank you.
All right, we got you covered? Okay, good. And the last speaker, Gabriela Marquez.
By a lot of the people here, but one of the things is we have medical at our, in our home gardens. We have a battery. It lasts 22 hours. When you guys turn off our electricity 6, 7, 9 days, and it lasts for 1 day, and you're talking about thousands of dollars worth of medication that can't be put on ice, what do? It's stressful. We get notifications after notifications. I get them. My husband gets them. They're different. And we're in the same household. We have like 7 of us in the neighborhood who we all send things, and we all have different information. And it's not accurate. We get notifications at 1 in the morning, at 3 in the morning, basically telling us our power is off, which we know. And it's not, I call, they give me the 211, I call 211, they're out. So many of the different numbers that I called, I went to the VW, a bag of ice is not going to help me, and it was expired. They did not accept it at 7-Eleven. So that's not helpful. I've lived in my home for over 28 years, and it's never been this is the worst. And it's not just food. This is someone's life, and it's stressful. I work at elementary school. My student asks me every day, Gabby, do we still have power? Every day, because some of the elementary schools went 6 days with no electricity. They were teaching with lights. This is like, there's no heaters, there's no anything. You guys have to do that. This is not acceptable. We pay our bills. My bill went up $100. And, how is this? It's like our electricity is off. This is not okay. You guys need to do better.
You must be big.
Also, Brian, you as a mayor, you need to be available in case of crisis for the people. Many people came to the city hall, they couldn't find you. The only people that help the people in the community are not coming front and dissensions. They pay they're taking people. But
So
you
we're gonna
guys-
go ahead and move
We're
to
not doing it.
council comments, and I'll start over here with
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Thank you. Thank you all for speaking. I have questions from our residents to Luis and Eileen. I think our residents are being very nice, frankly. I think everyone's being very cordial. But I'm just going to go through the list. One, why was a coupon for ice given to our community when that coupon was expired? That's the first question. Why were expired coupons given to our community?
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm sorry, this is the first time I hear that. That is definitely not acceptable and we'll look into it. Our standard is to give good coupons.
I also want to add, even though it had an expiration date, the store was still accepting them. We were trying to get the coupons out to everyone as quickly as possible, but they were accepting them. I don't know if anyone brought them into a store and if they
Yeah,
were...
we just heard from several folks that went to stores and they wouldn't accept the coupon.
Okay, we'll have to look into that, because I know some folks did bring them in and they were accepted. So I'll have to look into their specific situation.
Okay, so
There's an ice house in downtown Riverside. You could have brought in an ice truck and had it down and give out ice here.
Thank you. My other question is, I don't want to give our residents the false notion that if they apply for this $250 claim, they'll be getting $250 back. Because as people have already said, many have already been rejected from that claim process. So how can SoCal Edison provide guarantees that people will get reimbursed for their claims for this event? Because the fact is that a majority of our residents did not get properly notified, even though Edison claims that they did. But folks here, and trust me, this is a small percentage of the people that were impacted. So this is just a microcosm of what we saw. I think all of us heard and saw out in the community. So how can we make sure, and the mayor also sent a letter out last week on this issue, how can we make sure that your claim process isn't just gonna deny all of our residents that apply for those $250, and then what do the residents that lost groceries not once but twice, what do they do about it? Because when power went on Saturday, after it being out for 3 days, many of our residents went out to get groceries, restocked, and lost them again by the next day. So I'd like an answer to that question.
I will have to get back to you on that. I do not have information on the claims process. As Luis had mentioned, we don't have the information to go through that policy with you right now, but we will get back to you.
Okay. The other thing is, we have a number of, another question. How many households were impacted by the power outages here in Jurupa Valley? How many households? I know the circuits, right, the specific circuits, but do you all know the exact number of households?
The team is actually working on right now on the post-event report that will be submitted to the CPUC on Monday. That'll have all that detail. I don't have the information right at hand.
How many households, let me reorganize my question. How many households do those circuits support?
I don't have that information.
A lot of I don't know, so I don't like this. We have a number of residents that are part of your medical baseline program that were also not notified before the power went out. What recourse do they have? Because there's people that woke up in the middle of the night, their machines were off, they were struggling, they were in the dark. There's residents, seniors that got stuck on the third and second floor of the senior centers because their only access is elevators. So what recourse do folks like that have with SoCal Edison?
All right, couple questions there.
One long question.
Yeah. So a couple things. So I think one of your questions was approximately how many customers are per circuit generally. That can really run the gamut on the size of the circuit, how it runs, and all anywhere between, I've seen from 1,500 to 2,500. It really runs the gamut. There is no standard per se, but it depends. Now, for our medical baseline customers, now this is a commercial that I want to give all the time. It's really imperative that we connect with you and you let us know that you are a medical baseline customer, whether you have a heightened medical need for power for whatever reason.
But what I'm saying, and sorry to interrupt you, Luis, and I know most of my questions are probably not for you, they're for probably your bosses who didn't want to be out here with us. And that we need you to really express this to them because this is a major concern and I don't think any of us want to let this go. There are residents that are in the medical baseline program that did not get notified. We have testimony of that. They came to the city council meeting, they've spoken here today, and they didn't get properly notified. So what recourse do they have?
So in that instance, my personal recommendation to you, if you receive that feedback from a customer, hey, or from a resident, I'm medical baseline, Edison never communicated with me. As soon as you receive that, like I've seen you guys do on social media, or even reaching out to Edison directly, let us know. Hey guys, my resident, John Doe, they are medical baseline, they didn't receive notification. How can we connect that? How can we correct that? And that would give us the opportunity to make that connection with that customer.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. We could communicate that to the public and to let you know.
Can you repeat that one time?
To let you know directly. I mean, so part of it is, and I see what you're doing, Luis. I think obviously you provide great customer service, right, and engaging folks individually. And please, yes, go talk to him. However, this is a systemic issue. What happened, right? That impacted hundreds of people, many who aren't here, has been shared by some of our residents. So it's like, how can even those folks that didn't come here today, how can we make sure that they're getting the support that they need? They may not be on the social media, right, but they're getting left behind. Like, what guarantees do we have as a city that that SoCal Edison is doing its job in responding to the most vulnerable folks in the community?
Sure. So two things. Number one, I'll definitely take that feedback with us so that when we meet up together afterwards on the hot wash and identify what are some lessons learned, how can we improve, what areas can we improve, we'll definitely take that with us. Currently, as it is for a medical based on our critical care customers, if they experience during a PSPS event, for example, if they do not receive a notice or it comes back and we're not able to connect with someone that we know that is identified as a medical based on our critical care, we will make multiple attempts at connecting with them to the point of sending out a field service representative to conduct a wellness check. So we do have that process already set in place. If there's a disconnect between us not being able to identify that customer as medical based on critical care, then we need that partnership with that customer to let us know, hey guys, this is my condition. Do you have me identified on my account as medical based on critical care?
Yeah, no, I think there's a major disconnect, Luis, with all due respect, because we have residents that are medically vulnerable that got no visit, right? They were stuck in the third floors. They were trying to reach out to customer service, and you know, they were told, oh, there's nothing you can do at this moment. You know, there's all kinds of excuses, right? And so I'm concerned that if I just tell people, oh, go call SoCal Edison, that the same thing will happen. That's why I'm asking, like, what are the guarantees that we can provide our residents that Edison is actually able to fulfill and respond to the duties that you all say you will?
Yeah, completely understand on the feedback. So perhaps there may be an opportunity to partner with the city, like the mayor mentioned earlier, maybe kind of amalgamate the information and resources available, maybe a process that are available to this customer base to let them, to make them raise awareness, right? And I do want to take this young lady's feedback on how can we directly engage with a customer base. So I'm going to take that feedback with me as part of my area in Edison, to see if there's an opportunity there for us. So thank you for that.
Please, how much in advance, to one of the questions earlier, how much in advance did we know this PSPS event was going to happen? You said 7 days? We knew 7 days before the power was shut down?
Oh, how much in advance do we know?
Did we know this past time when our residents were out of power for 6 to 9 days, depending on what circuit?
So with this particular event?
How far in advance did you all know that you were going to shut it down?
Yeah, with this, I mean, I say typically the weather services folks are seeing a wind event come in at 6 to 7 days out at best. But that's a very broad area. The fidelity of and I'm not a weather services person, I'm just, by intaking the weather data to make decisions, I have been educated. So I'm trying to answer the question the best I can. The 6 to 7 days generally when they see wind patterns coming in. When models are telling the winds coming in, but they can't localize where those winds exactly will occur down to a per circuit basis. The best case scenario is about 3 days out is where they can start assessing those impacts with enough fidelity down to the circuit level. It's usually 2 to 3 days. There's a requirement to notify public safety public safety partners at 3 days out, and 48 hours is when as I understand, the fidelity of the weather gets good enough, and the fuels, mind you, because this is weather and fuels combined, and fuels is a little more tricky, is knowing when, about 48 hours out, when the fuels and the wind will coincide to impact that circuit.
So from 48 hours minimum to 7 days, so I'm just still struck at why we have so many residents that didn't get notified at all until the power was already out, or the other thing that happened, and that we're hearing from folks here today as well, is that people's power was out, they would call Edison, and Edison would say, no, you have your power is not out when they're in the dark. Right? That happened several times. I know several communities have faced that. Now, how do you explain that?
Yeah.
I have a comment that will help him. I got a phone call at 11:30 in the morning.
Are you gonna call it in with a man?
I got to attempt to answer your question.
Because I've been getting all of this junk, okay? And I had somebody from Edison calling me at like 1:30 in the morning to tell me, you're gonna have a power outage in 7 days. And they give me the time, the day, and everything when it's going to happen. So somebody's doing something over there, but you guys aren't connecting the dots, and you're not helping these people help this group of people. Shame on you, and I'm sorry for you.
So let me address the notifications in the middle of the night, because I think I heard that twice.
Yeah, that's
We tried to not send notifications, and the California Public Utilities Commission states that PSPS is an emergency notification, and you must send it any hour of the day. And we are fined if we do not. So that's a Public Utilities Commission requirement. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but when it was, you're not even letting them know in 7 days. You're waiting till 3 days before, but I knew before they did.
Yeah.
You're saying it's an emergency, and you're saying we have to send them whenever we get them, and then you're saying, but you're saying to them, oh, well, we're sending them to you 3 days after we get 3 days before the event, but you know 7 days. The whole thing is wrong. Do your homework, Edison.
So my other question is on the generators. What are the options that you're going to create? So if these are the new normals, I know folks from the SoCal Edison team have told residents to get used to it, that this is a new normal. How do we make sure that Edison is providing alternatives to power. I mean, you guys are a monopoly in power access, right, here in the region. So how do we make sure that our residents are getting alternatives, access to generators and things like that? How do we make sure of that? Well, the problem with the programs is that they're very narrow, right? They're very narrow for certain population, which should absolutely have access to the generators. But these PSPS or these issues of power outages are not just towards that community, right? They're towards we have 10,000 households approximately that were impacted here in Jurupa Valley, right? For about 2,500 per circuit. So if these power outages, according to you all, are a new normal, how are you all making sure that everybody has access to alternatives, not just a small group of people, which that absolutely deserves it, right? Deserves to have first access to.
I'll try my best and you can cover me. There's a couple programs that I can think of. One is the SCE Marketplace, where we have generators where there are rebates for generators of all types, both gasoline and battery powered, I believe. Second is, she mentioned, is the self-generation incentive program. Again, I'm not aware of the specific requirements, but that is another program that, if you meet the criteria, will help assist with self-generation.
But shouldn't we get more because
It's like I think we need to, and it's not on you. Obviously, you have to share what's there. But I think we need to figure out as a council, as a city, how do we make sure that there's accountability from major utility companies like Edison, so that our residents are being taken care of in terms of access to power, in terms of access to alternatives, access to rebates. I'm involved at this claims process, and that people are already getting denied. So I think, frankly, it seems like the big utility companies only respond to major lawsuits. And so I think we really need to figure out how do we ensure accountability for our residents, so that our residents can get the things that they need, so we can all get them. That's all the questions I have for now.
Thank you, and a lot of it was covered, so I'm going to try not to repeat anything that the residents brought up, which were all good points, and my colleague, Councilman Carmona. The facts about the January event, as it's being called, or the Edison shutoffs, hundreds of thousands of homes across Southern California were turned off for the 4 days they turned back on and then turned back off. It's not just a Rubidoux Valley problem, but for us, we are focused on our residents here and how we're going to help solve that. And quite honestly, I know our council is going to work together to do anything that we can to help our residents. There's very little the city can do to a large corporation like Edison. So some of the things that we are doing, including myself, is working with other cities to go talk to the PUC directly. They're the ones that govern Edison and tell them what to do. And in my opinion, we knew the maps were wrong. People were being notified incorrectly. There was not enough resources. Everything you guys talked about, nothing was accurate. And to be fair to the folks that are here, I don't think anyone was prepared for how long the power was off. When they notified us 3 days in advance to get ready, that's kind of where we started working with the VFW to get that ready. It was a day, maybe 2 day event that ended up continuing. So no one was prepared. Now what we need to do is work with the PUC and work with our partners across the region, across Southern California, to change the rules. Because the reality is, and I know why they can't answer it, I don't agree with it, but I understand it. Your food is not covered. You're not going to get reimbursed at the PSPS event. Same thing with everything else.
Say that. Yeah, that's what we want. Say that.
If you look at their policy on their website, if it's a PSPS event, it is not. We need to work with the PUC to change the rules that it should be covered. That's what we're going to start doing, because at this current time, it's not. And it's going to be a regular thing. It's going to be off for a lot of days. We need to get the governing body that's controlled by the state governor that regulates Edison, PG&E, San Diego utility, all the utilities. So that's kind of where actually we're taking. And another thing that I've introduced lately, for some of the folks who talked about it, is new legislation locally to require all multifamily housing that has the elevators, hallways, outside lighting. It's pretty soon, so hopefully when it comes back to council, it'll be a new law that requires all those management for-profit companies to provide backup energy sources so elevators work, so hallway lights work in the event that power goes out, whether it's an instant shut off or anything else that shuts power off. By no means are we done yet, and I know my colleagues are going to say similar comments, but I do want to make sure we are aware that the PUC governs Edison. We can talk and ask, and we do appreciate that these folks here are here to talk to us. They're not the decision makers, and they're going to be very careful on what they say because they have to be. And I think we'll be a little more honest, but I do appreciate that they're here, and I want to be very factual with you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time and thank you for coming here. I appreciate a lot of people's feedback. I did like some ideas, which was adding an emergency contact list to our website, which I'm sure we can work on as well in the future. I also liked also adding a list of seniors and disabled individuals so that we can have a team to go out and physically go contact our neighbors. As you say, I understand that a lot of people don't have social media and don't have means to know what's going on, even though we have, our website does allow to have email notifications and we have our app, but sometimes if you have a dead phone, how do you know what's going on? So I think that being able to have more communication with our neighbors and our residents is something key that we can look forward more and making more contact with people. So thank you so much for those thoughts. And I was going to say that I was looking forward to hearing the claims process for food and medications from Edison, but that's been squashed. So, but I do appreciate everybody's time and thank you for coming.
Oh, good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Diego Silva. They call me Willie. I'm not good at really speaking well, but I mean, I'm the crap part. But I feel that the term emergency in this situation is being used loosely. I don't really think a PSP is considered in that category. I think this is more to avoid like liabilities on your part, and I feel our residents shouldn't have to pay that part. So I think we need to do better and work with them and figure out how we can address their concerns more. I had many residents reach out to me during that event, some with medical issues that were told they were on the program, but for some reason they didn't have a machine for them. So like, a question there is, do you have an enrollment where there's 100 people on the medical program, but you only have 50 machines or 50 things that work for them? Then that's not right. We should have at least a minimum that is signed up for. That way, in case you couldn't get a hold of them, when they get a hold of you, you have it prepared for them, not the response I got from one resident was they were told to go to the emergency room. And I mean, that's expensive. I try to avoid it at all costs and have insurance. And I can understand someone that probably doesn't have insurance or has specific reasons why they can't get to the emergency. So I would like to see if we can do better on that part from the SE side. I'm a family of 6, so I understand how sometimes it's paycheck to paycheck. So I know when we get together with family, we say, who has an ice chest? So to tell people to have an ice chest ready, I don't think everybody just has an ice chest ready. In the event they do, I don't think they have 3 or 4 of them. And in family of 6, one ice chest they can do. And then to keep it maintained throughout that time, to be able to change out the food and all that time. I mean, I go shop in bulk because I have to make sure it lasts for 6 people. So if someone have to go daily to go get their groceries, they're going to pay higher prices, ice to maintain it. So I think we need to get something to be done better on that part. And that's why it's not so much, I see the term, get prepared for emergencies being used loosely when it's more, this is something I feel to protect liability. And I think if that's the case, our residents should get some help on that aspect. Provide them an ice chest. I don't know. I remember one time in my neighborhood, we had a power outage that lasted, I think it was 3 days. And I think on the second day, they came out with some, I don't know what it's called, but I guess it was a generator that they plugged into the circuit and we got some houses powered up. Maybe we'll prepare with that. If we're gonna have some of those maybe we can't power them for the whole time, but turn on this section, you know, today you're gonna have it, next day this section gonna have it. I don't know how that works, but I know they did it in my housing track, so I don't know if it works real well the whole city, but I'm pretty sure it's something that can be done in that aspect. I'm not saying to power it those 9 days. I understand 1 or 2 days is understandable, but to have them out for 9 days, we should have a preventative measure in that regard, where hey, this community, we're gonna have you guys powered up for you know, these 10 hours, and then you're done for 2 days while we go to another community and keep going, cycling until that whole event is over. Let me look at my notes. I have chicken scratches all over, so let me see. Oh, and on our side, one of the residents mentioned they don't have access to social media. So on that part, I think if maybe once a year or maybe twice a year, we can send out some kind of flyer that tells residents where our bulletin boards are throughout the city. I know we have certain areas we post banners and stuff to inform the community, so at least maybe that part we can do our part on there. And that way we can know that we're at least informing them on that part, at least once or twice a year, to remember in this area we have a bulletin board. I know we have a couple through the city in our corridors, so that way they can get informed in that section. And a lot of answers were vague, and I get it, there's higher ups that you know, you guys can answer certain things, but if we can please, if there's future meetings, just come prepared with the answer. We all knew these questions were coming. I expected you guys to know these questions were coming, so more of an answer, not I'll get back to you. And I understand there's certain reasons why, I get that, but if we can get something where we have the answer now rather than I'll get back to you, and if it's get back to you, reach out to those specific residents that ask that question, so that way in case we drop the ball, you guys are directly responding to them, so we don't get them upset with us. So those are just my comments, and thank you very much for coming out here.
Before I make comments, did any council member have any direction to staff? I don't want to miss that either. Corridors. I think other than that, then we need to get the website in coordination with Edison so we can get all the information on our website. And I think it goes beyond just that information we've talked about, where the programs and services are. We also need to, if we're getting a day in advance notice, if that's the way it turns out it needs to be, and I don't disagree with any of the residents who said we should be notified at the same time. I agree. So if we get a notice, we should be able to put that immediately on whatever method, social media, emails, text messages, whatever, whomever we have contacts with. You know, I know the city has a whole list of residents that have provided their email and their phone numbers for volunteering and for just getting information on council meetings and other events. We have a list. We have to expand it, but we have a way to reach out immediately, and there's no reason to delay by 24 hours. Once we know something's happening, the residents have the rights to know it too. So now whether that's Edison that can push out a day earlier so we're all learning at the same time, that would be something for Edison to go back into the table and see if that's something that could be arranged. Because I also see the same benefit. The residents who have medical issues or generational families, look, they may have another place they could go, but they may need a day or two or three to figure out what they're going to do. And we know that not every event is going to pan out in a shutoff. Many times you get a PSP warning zone, you're in that zone that could get shut off, and you never know if it's going to happen or not until it does. But to be notified in advance, the most notification as possible, great. And if it turns out you don't get shut off, well, at least the residents have the ability, the extra time to make whatever plans to get whatever they need accomplished. And we're going to have to work more about generators and other things. One thing that really bothered me about this PSPS event in January and the length of it was the fact that, as I said at the very beginning, I think of PSPS as the same kind of critical emergency as a fire evacuation zone or an earthquake or something catastrophic. where you lose access to your home for what it's supposed to be. And what the problem was, yes, Edison had these great resource centers, and 1,400 people went to the VFW. That, I think, as I heard from the people, the Edison crews that were there, they said those were like the largest number of all of your resource centers, that the most people went to the Jurupa Valley, even in history possibly, I'm not sure. But the point is, you close at 10 or 8 or whatever time you're a daytime operation. My frustration was what happens at night. People with no power, and it was cold during that period of time in January. It was really, uncomfortable conditions. We needed an overnight shelter. We needed to have the school district open up, and yet the failure here is that one isn't communicating with the other, because when there's a fire, it turns out it's the Red Cross who calls the school district and tells them to open, and they take care of things. But this isn't that scenario. So we as a city have to come together with the school districts, the parks districts, and all these other nonprofits and figure out how we can best maximize getting resources where they need to be, getting help to people who we know are going to need to be checked on, and then getting a place where people could bring their medicines that can stay refrigerated. I mean, I know the school district has refrigerators at their high schools for sure. I'm sure all of them, because they serve food to children every single day. So it's possible that we need to work on those kinds of things so that we are better prepared for you.
But they don't have a generator for that refrigerator. So the same problem happens.
So the last thing I'm going to say, because we've already gone over by a lot, and I want to thank everybody still for sitting here, and for Edison for indulging the questions that were asked by all of our residents and by council. We are at step one. We have much more work to do until we feel comfortable that we can provide the residents the services that they need during these crisis situations. So we will continue to work with other agencies and Edison to make sure we can find a way to not only inform all of you and all of the residents here about what events are happening, but we can make sure that you are on the right page with whether it's Edison and making sure they have your correct information, making sure our city website has whatever information on how to get a generator in advance. If we as a city can create a program where we can buy some and loan them out, that would be something that we will look at to see if that's feasible. We're not going to stop. This is just day one. We're going to figure this out together, and we look forward to community involvement, Edison's involvement, and all of the other agencies that we call Jurupa Valley. So with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:35, and I do want to just shout out to Eileen, Cameron, Jeff, Jennifer, and Luis from Edison. We thank you for putting up. It was like a boxing ring, and fortunately no punches were thrown. So we thank our gracious residents, but you've heard what everybody had to say. We thank you.
And I just wanted to thank also the council and again the community. We value your feedback. We've heard your suggestions, so we'll take those back with us, both positive and negative. So we want to make sure that we, like you said, this is just the first phase of an ongoing discussion. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, so you're speaking a lot about your frustrations as a resident, having to go through multiple day power outages. What was that experience like, and what are your frustrations with the way that SoCal Edison has handled the situation?
Wow, too many days, lots of opportunity for Edison to do rotating ons and offs. Why not have them do that every 4 hours? Say, we're going to take a part of the grid, we're going to light you up. That way your refrigerator gets cold, then the next, and keep going. They could do rolling outages. They weren't checking the weather here. There was a whole day, there was no weather going on, but we were out of power.
By no weather, do you mean like strong winds?
There was no wind. There was no wind event going on. It was perfectly safe and sane for them to have the power on but they didn't have anybody out in the field able to say to them, you know what, this has been going on for 4 hours now, there's no power, there's no wind, we need to do something to get this moved forward.
Text me your address.
And if they're going to have a website that has information about these outages, at least organize them in a way that people can find their outage without having to scroll through the other 100 outages that are going on. And telling me that telling them the Galena grid is getting turned on, what does that mean to me in my community? It means absolutely nothing because I don't know what grid I'm on. Put it on my bill so when something happens, you know your grid is right there on your bill and you can find out, am I going to get affected? There's all these little simple solutions that aren't being... Nobody's listening to the simple-minded person that's saying, they're saying, oh, that's just too much work. It's a simple little solution.
And what are some of those simple solutions that you recommend personally, or that others have recommended in your community?
Well, like I was saying, if you on your bill, tell me I'm on the Galena grid. I can't, if I'm this lady that was over here that doesn't use the internet, obviously, she's not going to know that. She's not going to be able to go online and do that. There are people who are, like I was saying earlier, who are blind, who are illiterate. Some of them are educationally challenged. There are people who are deaf. All of these different people who no one is culturally addressing by using social media. Social media is not the answer to the things that are going on in life. A cell phone's not the answer. A text is not the answer. A postcard to your house and saying simple words, this is going to happen to you, or this is what's going on in your community, would make our communities, all of our communities, so much stronger. We are too dependent on the internet. The internet needs to die, in my opinion. And I use it every day, and I'm a big user, but when it comes to my livelihood, my safety, my everything, I treat myself as if I'm blind, deaf, and illiterate. And turn off all social media. I have no social media. I don't allow myself any of social media. I depend on someone sending me that letter that Edison sends me saying your power's going out.
And as far as today's meeting with, today's town hall with SoCal Edison, how do you feel they handled it? The council members weren't too satisfied. They were kind of getting...
I would like to see the council members get more involved in what's going on. I can't say that Edison's doing the best job they can. They also need to do more homework, obviously. But the city needs to get involved. The city needs to care. And I don't feel the city of Jurupa Valley care. The city council, whatever you want to call it, I don't think they care enough. I think they've been sitting on their laurels too long. And it's time for them to get more interactive in what's going on. Because he's asking questions that I had the answers to. He could have been on the website the same way I was, every night saying, when does this end? When does this, I want to talk to you. When does this all, so yeah.
Yeah,
great.
But we all try to work together and we all try to serve our community. So
well, I'm hoping that I can get you guys to make this a community.
Yeah. And I think the dynamic of the council now is just kind of changing. So I think we'll be able to achieve that together. So,
and you got to fix whoever's answering the phone so she has phone numbers so that you can reach out to you guys.
Yeah.
There's
I'll
nothing.
find
She
out.
has
I don't
very
know.
little information.
I don't know who does that.
It's been like that. It's always the same girl that answers the phone.
Oh,
just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't have what she needs because they've shut her down.
Oh, okay.
So check into that.
One last question. Someone said earlier that this might be the new normal.
It is going to be the new normal.
Yeah,
it's a promise.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I said it's a promise. It's the new normal, and it's going to affect communities like this one, where we're getting these public safety shutoffs because Edison decided, it's too dangerous. We can't turn on the power. We got to turn it off so there's not a fire. So what happens to the value of my home? Who's going to want to buy a house in my community when every time they turn around and there's some kind of emergency event, boom, we have no power.
Do you feel like this is a way for them to pivot and maybe absolve themselves of responsibility, or why do you think these, because I know they say they're necessary, but,
They're necessary to protect their interests, yeah. I mean, how can you not believe that?
Yeah. Any last comments, any last thoughts?
Be a community, please. Look, get to know your neighbors. Your neighbors have things you need. They're good resources. And be a good resource to your neighbors. My neighbors are not good resources to one another at all. So hopefully everybody takes the time to be a community, be a friend, and remember what it was like when you were a little kid and everybody played on the street and all the little kids knew each other, and you went to the neighbor's house and you had dinner and stuff like that. Little kids don't play on the road, don't play on the streets, because we have idiots driving around on their cars and playing speed racer and things like that. We need to stop that as a whole humanity. And go back to basics of being a family. Because when you lived in a neighborhood, you knew every family there. You had dinner at half of those houses, and your kids could play safely on the street. Watching little kids sitting at home instead of outside playing, they're sitting in their living room and they're playing on their iPad or whatever it is. And somebody goes to the door and they say, "Mommy, you got to answer the door. Somebody's sitting there." That's wrong.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.